You are watching Shadowen, where the stories are real, and the fear is too. I'm really not sure how to start this first one, because it genuinely sounds like it came out of a fever dream, but the details are consistent and horrifying. This entry is called The Bathroom That Didn't Connect, and I think what scares me most is the sense of displacement. Okay, so this happened last fall. I was driving cross-country to see my cousin, and I hit that stretch of Highway 80 that goes through Nebraska, right? Middle of nowhere. I had been driving for like 12 hours. My neck was killing me, and I hadn't taken my migraine meds because I didn't want to fall asleep at the wheel. So I pull off and find this dumpy motel, the kind where the exterior paint is peeling and the ice machine is out of order permanently. The room smelled like stale Pall Malls and Pine Sol. The walls were that institutional beige, the color of old oatmeal. I literally just wanted to shower and crash. I turned on the water. It was lukewarm, naturally, and stripped down. The bathroom was tiny. Sink, toilet, tub. Above the sink, a cheap metal medicine cabinet, maybe 12 inches wide. I never look in motel mirrors, dude. They're always stained or they stretch your face weirdly. But as I was waiting for the water to heat up, I glanced over just to see how awful I looked. I saw my reflection. Messy hair, bags under my eyes, the terrible logo on the shirt I was holding. Standard stuff. But then I looked past my reflection, into the reflection of the room behind me. And it wasn't my room. My room, the real one, had that beige wall right behind me, maybe 5 feet away, and the dresser against it. The reflection showed a wall that was a sickly, bright aqua blue, like hospital scrubs. It showed a sliver of a different kind of bed, maybe a twin, not the stained king I rented. And instead of the beat-up lamp on the dresser, there was this tall, dark shadow, standing next to the reflected bed. I literally froze. I thought maybe I was hallucinating because of the lack of meds and sleep. I pinched myself, hard. It hurt. I slowly turned around, away from the sink, to check the real room. Beige walls, king bed, ugly lamp. Nothing else. Just me and my suitcase. I turned back to the reflection, keeping my body rigid. The aqua wall was still there in the mirror, and the shadow was still standing by the reflected bed. It wasn't doing anything. It wasn't waving or moving or even staring. It was just existing in that reflected space. Like the mirror wasn't reflecting my reality, it was reflecting an entirely different motel room. Maybe one right next door, only shifted. Except the geography was wrong. My bathroom wall should have been hitting the room at a different angle. I did the only logical thing a person can do when physics breaks down. I grabbed the handle of the medicine cabinet door and yanked it open. The reflection snapped off. Just the dull metal interior of the cabinet. I slammed it shut. The reflection came back instantly. Beige walls, king bed, my room. I stood there, staring. Just my tired face looking back. I waited 5 seconds, maybe 10. Then I slowly looked past my face again. The aqua wall was back. The strange bed. The tall, thin shadow next to it. But this time, the shadow was looking at me. Not at my physical body, but at my reflection in its room. It was like 2 separate dimensions were layered, and only the mirror let the visual information bleed through. The shadow lifted a hand, slow and deliberate, and brought its fingers up to what would have been the glass on its side. I didn't even turn off the shower. I just grabbed my clothes, pulled them on, soaked my socks immediately, and bolted. I left my toothbrush, my charging cable, and $50 on the desk. I drove 200 miles straight before I felt like I could breathe again. I still have no idea what that was, dude. I don't know if I paid for a room that existed in two places at once, or if that shadow was just trapped in a reflection that wasn't properly synced to the real world. All I know is that the shadow looked scared too. You are watching Shadowen, where the stories are real and the fear is too. That last story, the geographical glitching, it just messes with your sense of stability, you know? I'm gonna move right along because I need to shake off that feeling of the wrong color wall. This next entry, titled "My Twin Took the Keys," shifts the focus from spatial breakdown to self-perception breakdown, and it's just disturbing. I drive a beat-up Toyota Camry. It's got a huge crack across the passenger side of the windshield, and the check engine light is perpetually on. I call her Betsy. This happened last summer when I was driving back from visiting my boyfriend, a 4-hour trek through rural Ohio. It was dark, maybe 1 a.m., and I was trying to find something good on the radio, but it was just static, and that annoying Taylor Swift song that I can't stand. I was craving a cigarette too, and my lighter was buried deep in my purse. I was cruising along, probably doing 85 in a 65, and I glanced up at the rearview mirror to check the lane behind me. Standard habit. I saw my face. Good. I was yawning, trying to stay awake. My hair was tied up messily, and I was wearing this huge, faded blue sweatshirt. Then I realized something was wrong with the reflection. I was wearing the blue sweatshirt. My reflection wasn't. My reflection was wearing a white tank top. A very clean white tank top, which I absolutely did not own. And the neckline was wrong. It looked newer, and the reflected me had this almost pristine, slightly curled hair, not my sweaty bun. I thought, okay, maybe the angle of the mirror is weird, or maybe the light is playing tricks, even though there's zero light out here. I kept driving, but I kept sneaking glances. I raised my right hand to scratch my ear. The reflection raised its right hand, but it didn't scratch its ear. It was just resting that hand, delicately, on the steering wheel, fingers outstretched. The reflected hand wasn't even dirty like mine was. I had engine grease under my nails from trying to check the oil earlier. I literally slammed on the brakes, just a little, not enough to crash, but enough to feel the jolt. In the sudden stop, I stared hard into the rear view. My reflection was staring back, but the look wasn't identical to mine. Mine was wide-eyed panic. Hers was totally neutral, maybe a little disappointed, like I was interrupting her focus. I grabbed my face with both hands, pulling my cheeks down in shock. The reflection did not grab its face. It lowered its pristine hand from the wheel, and I saw something flash in its reflection. The metal gleam of keys. My keys. My beat-up set of car keys, attached to the ridiculous, fluffy blue rabbit keychain my sister gave me. My keys were currently in the ignition. I could feel the plastic housing beneath my fingers. But the reflection, the girl in the white tank top, was holding them up, dangling them slightly, and smiling. It wasn't a nice smile. It was thin, tight, and mocking. I looked down at the ignition. My keys were there. I looked back up at the mirror. The reflected girl was slowly pocketing them in her pristine white tank top, which, again, did not have pockets. I ripped the mirror off its hinge, just tore it right off the windshield mount. It came away with a sharp, plastic cracking sound. I threw it onto the passenger seat. I floored the gas pedal and drove like a maniac for the next 2 hours, hyperventilating. I didn't dare look into the side mirrors, or the window reflection, or even the black face of my phone screen. When I finally got to my cousin's house, I couldn't stop shaking. I parked in the driveway and turned off the engine. I went inside and immediately put the detached rearview mirror face down in a drawer under a pile of socks. The next morning, my cousin asks, "Dude, why did you leave your car keys outside on the sidewalk? They were lying right next to the driver's side door, like someone just tossed them out." They were my keys, the exact set, with the blue rabbit keychain. I never told anyone this part. When I went back out and checked the car, the blue sweatshirt I was wearing the night before had a fresh, dark burn hole right over the breast pocket. Like someone had deliberately pressed a cigarette into it. Hard. I just drive without a rearview mirror now. The car still runs, but I have this constant creeping feeling that whatever reflection that was, she's driving somewhere too. And she's already stolen the key to something important. You are watching Shadowen, where the stories are real, and the fear is too. This is definitely not what I expected the submissions to focus on this week. It feels deeply personal, this theme of shattered identity through glass. This next story, The Pocket Change, is incredibly brief, but the detail about the texture of the reflection is what makes it so unnerving. I hate going into malls. The air always smells like too much perfume and Cinnabon, and the lighting gives me a headache. I was only there because I needed to pick up a special dog food blend that only that one pet store carried, and I was out of my damn allergy medicine, so I was already cranky. I walked past this huge department store window. You know those thick, dark glass panes? They give a decent reflection, even in daylight. I was walking, holding a $6 latte, and I decided to check my hair. I usually have a curl that refuses to stay put. I saw my reflection walking toward me. Normal. I had on my usual grubby jeans and a gray t-shirt. I had my coffee cup. I looked down at my feet because my left shoelace was untied. When I looked back up at the reflection, maybe 2 seconds later, I literally stopped walking. My reflection had stopped too. We were perfectly matched. But my reflection was covered in dirt. Not just normal dirt, but like caked on, greasy, black and brown grime. It looked like someone had rolled me in mud and then let me dry. The worst part was on my left shoulder, where I had a faint coffee stain on my real shirt. The reflection had this huge wet patch of something that looked like actual dookie. Just absolutely disgusting. I instantly looked down at my real shirt. Nope. Clean gray cotton, small coffee dribble, perfectly fine. I looked back at the glass. The reflection was still standing there, looking filthy, and it had a blank, staring expression. I instinctively reached out and touched the glass, right where the reflection's disgusting shoulder patch was. When I touched the glass, the reflection didn't vanish or shudder. It changed. The grime disappeared instantaneously, like someone wiped a chalkboard clean. But where the filth had been, there was now something worse. Under the skin of my reflection's face, right beneath the left eye, I saw movement, like something shifting beneath the epidermis. And then, whatever it was pushed against the reflected skin, and a tiny silvery shape popped out of the reflection's cheek, sticking halfway out like a metallic sliver. It was a dime. A dirty old dime, stuck halfway out of my reflected cheek. I screamed, not loud, but a high, choked noise, and yanked my hand back. I stumbled backward a step, knocking my latte into a trash can. I looked back at the window. The reflection was completely normal again. Clean shirt, clean face, just me, looking panicked and sweaty. No grime, no dime. I didn't stick around. I ran into the pet store, bought the damn dog food, and got out of there. I was shaking so badly I couldn't even manage to tie my shoelace until I was back in the car. But here's the thing that made me send this in. When I got home, I stripped down to throw the gray shirt in the laundry. And when I peeled the shirt off, something dropped onto the carpet. It was a dime. An old, greasy dime. The kind of coin that's been in circulation for 40 years and smells like old copper and rust. I checked my face in the bathroom mirror. Nothing. No mark, no scar, nothing near my cheek. I kept the dime, sealed in a little plastic baggie. I don't know why, but now I literally will not stop and look at glass, especially huge window panes. I cross the street to avoid them, because I know that something out there is wearing my skin like a suit. And sometimes the mirror gets confused about which version is supposed to hold the spare pocket change. You are watching Shadowen, where the stories are real and the fear is too. I'm feeling that pervasive dread now. It's hard to talk about mirrors without feeling like something is staring back over my shoulder, you know? Let's close this set with a heavy one. I don't even know how to introduce this last piece. Mom's collection of dust. Because the grief and the confusion are so raw. When I was maybe 10 or 11, something really bad happened in our house. My parents never told me what it was, only that it involved my older sister, Amelia. She wasn't gone, not technically, but she was never really back either. She moved out a few weeks later and went completely no contact. After Amelia left, my mom totally broke, not in a screaming way, but in a quiet, methodical way. The first thing she did was eliminate the mirrors. She didn't smash them. She covered them. She went to Home Depot and bought huge rolls of thick industrial plastic sheeting and yards of cheap brown canvas drop cloths. Then she carefully, obsessively, taped them over every single reflective surface in the house. The full-length mirror in the hallway? Covered. The bathroom mirror? Covered. The vanity mirror on her dresser? Covered. She even covered the screens of the unused TVs and monitors, draping thick towels over them so they couldn't catch the light. She said the reflections were wrong. She kept saying, "They're holding her still, holding the thing that took her." I was a kid, so I thought it was just grief. But after a few months, I started to notice things. The house was dark. Everything smelled like dust and masking tape. The drop cloths hung heavy and beige everywhere. But there were still little spots that reflected light. My bedroom window at night, when the light was on. The stainless steel toaster in the kitchen. The dark, polished wood of the dining room table. And sometimes, when I walked past those small surfaces, I saw something quick, a flicker. Not me, not Mom. Something tall, with really long, stiff arms. One night, I woke up because I heard my mom talking in the hallway. It was maybe 3 a.m. I got out of bed, careful not to step on the squeaky floorboard. She was standing right in front of the master bathroom door. The mirror inside was covered with the canvas, held tight with silver duct tape. But right above the sink, the cold water tap handle was polished chrome, about the size of a quarter. My mom was standing there, leaning down, talking directly to that tiny, reflected surface. I couldn't hear what she was saying at first, but it sounded like arguing. Low, desperate, strained whispers. I crept closer, and I heard her clearly. "No, not tonight. You already took the pretty one. You don't get the broken one, too." She paused, as if listening to a reply I couldn't hear. Then she said, "You said she'd be safe if we gave you the other half. You promised." I was absolutely terrified, shaking so hard my pajama pants rustled. I ducked back into the shadow of the linen closet. My mom reached out toward the tiny, shiny reflection on the faucet handle. Her fingernails were completely torn down to the quick. She started crying then, the silent, shoulders shaking kind of crying. She didn't move her face, but she brought her hand right up to the faucet handle. And just before she touched it, I saw it. In the tiny, curved chrome reflection of the faucet handle, I saw my mother's face. It was distorted, curved around the metal, but clearly her. But right next to her face, crammed into the same tiny surface, was another face. It was smiling, wide, sharp, and completely filling the space behind her reflection. It had my sister Amelia's eyes, but they were glossy black, like oil slicks. My mother didn't touch the faucet. She slowly pulled her hand back, her eyes squeezed shut. She whispered one last thing, aimed directly at the shining reflection. "You can keep her. Just stay behind the glass." She turned around and walked back to her bedroom, passing right by me without seeing me. I never saw that face in the faucet again. But that day, I checked the small silver ring I wore on my finger. A cheap mood ring. And when I held it up to the light, I saw the tiniest, impossible reflection of that dark smile. I still live in that house sometimes. My mom passed away last year. We finally uncovered all the mirrors. They're just mirrors. But I wear long sleeves and gloves now, year-round, even in summer. Because I don't want any small reflective surface, a spoon, a doorknob, the screen of my dead cell phone, to catch the light and show me that thing that Mom spent 30 years trying to keep behind the dust. If you have experienced anything like these stories, anything that made you question if your reflection is truly yours, or if your reality is connected correctly to the world around you, please submit it. And don't forget to subscribe to Shadowen for more absolute chaos.